Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name is Ayat Robin and I'm an immigration lawyer with the Sterling Law Firm based here in London, United Kingdom. So for today's video, we are going to delve into what do you do if your endorsement is refused by Tech Nation. So unfortunately, you put in all the work, you submit all the evidence, and they've turned around and gave you a refusal with further explanation. So there are two main ways you can approach this refusal. It doesn't mean it's the end of the day just yet. You may still be successful at the end. Now, with these two ways, prior getting into that, I highly advise that you familiarize yourself with all the arguments Tech Nation made against your application, as well as familiarize yourself very well with the visa guide that Tech Nation has released. So as you may have already read that in the preparation of your application, Tech Nation does release for each requirement the type of evidence that they will accept. And if you feel that you have submitted all these evidence or it's not all being considered, then your first step in approaching would be to make a list of all their arguments and all the rules. When you have the two side by side, now this is where you will look into all the evidence that you've provided. So when you have 1 and 2, 3 categories and you feel that they, for example, stated that you didn't show income or employment, while you did include a employment contract. So this would already be a argument number 1. So you work your way through all these arguments, and if you feel you have a good chance, your best approach is to submit an endorsement review. Bear in mind that you only have 28 days to submit a review from the dates that you receive the decision. So, and here we also have to note that it is calendar days. So this means weekends as well. So you count from the date you get a decision and 28 days past that. That is your last date to submit an endorsement review. If you go through these arguments and you've noticed that they've made a fair point on, say, points 1 or 2 that something was missing and it was not included, then your other option would be to sit back, collect the correct evidence, and reapply at a later stage. However, if you're in the midpoint way, where you can see their arguments but you don't truly understand, again, there's no harm in submitting a review because the review is free of charge. And upon submitting that review, Tech Nation will be inclined to provide even further reasoning as to why you didn't meet it for the second time. So you could use this feedback as guidance when you make that application at a later date. So take a case example where in this situation I would advise to submit endorsement review is if, say, you applied for exceptional talent. So exceptional talent obviously means that it's a higher threshold, you are more in your career, you're more advanced. And they turn around and say you're not quite there yet. But if you were to hold that same application on the standards of exceptional promise, you think you had a fair shot, this is where I would submit endorsement review. Why? Because Tech Nation actually has the obligation to assess all applicants under both routes. So under exceptional talent or exceptional promise. So if they rejected you on exceptional talent and they had fair points, you can submit an endorsement review and argue that although you may not have met talent, you could have met promise. So there's been situations that we've dealt with in the past that our clients did get granted after endorsement review for promise rather than talent. So if you decide to submit an endorsement review, the submission is quite straightforward and it's quite simple. There is a form that you will be required to fill out. This form is made available on Home Office as well as in the email in which that they've refused you in. They will send you a link as well to download the correct form. And within this form, as per usual, fill out all the details and they will have 3 or 4 sections below where they'll state which arguments you're making against what points. So in this point, if you've noticed, say with Tech Nations, we have the mandatory requirement and 2 optional. So usually just divide it between 1, 2, and 3. If you were refused on all 3, make your arguments against each one in each of these designated spaces. The submission will be through email and you will not need to submit anything further rather than just that form and your arguments. One of the important things to note is that you are not allowed to introduce new evidence. So you can only rely on the evidence that was initially submitted. So no new information, no new reference, no new documents. So only on the documents that you had initially submitted, your 10 supporting documents with your 3 reference letters, CV, and personal statement. These are the limited documents that you can refer to in endorsement review. So this is going back to what I mentioned of having 1, 2, and 3 categories side by side. You have their argument, you have the rule, and you have your evidence. So you can line it up perfectly where you can counter an argument based on a rule which is supported by evidence. That's a stronger case for you. But again, as mentioned, if you're uncertain, it's never a harm to just submit the review just to understand further on what you should or should not do for the next application. So in summary, I personally advise to always take advantage of submitting a review, even if you know that you don't have chances and the review will be rejected as well. But they will be obligated to give you more reasoning on that review. And also bear in mind that there is a lot of situations, and we've seen this a lot of times as well, where initially it is refused, and after review it's successful. Because bear in mind, when you submit your endorsement application the first time to TechNation, it is only one caseworker that will assess your application. But when you submit for an endorsement review, this endorsement review and your application, so they would already have your initial application, will be given to a panel of 6 caseworkers. So you will have 6 people weigh in their opinion on whether or not you meet the standards. So in conclusion, I hope you found that very helpful. We wish you all the best. And if you need any assistance in preparing these reviews or drafting your arguments, please don't hesitate to contact myself or the team at Sterling Law Firm. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you found this helpful.